And we're starting now. Mike Dennis.
Right.
Mike Dennis in the house. Let me know when we're online. Also, if I start here and it says green on there, does that come live on there right from as soon as it's green? I don't think so.
When you said starting, I was still black, and then when you started asking about when you go green, then it said stream starting, and now we're
Because I watch other people do streaming and they're like, hello and welcome, and then everything is good right there, right at the beginning. I feel like I can't do that. And I don't see people looking like
a coaster? No.
No, but there's one over on my table that's near the grip strength thing.
This thing?
Oh.
Yeah!
Thank you. From.
Thank you. I love it, but not right-handed.
Oh,
Woo!
John is in the chat.
Hey, John Clark. Howdy, y'all. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but anyone who says y'all to me automatically gets cool points. All right, we got number one. We got just one person watching now, so we'll jump right into it. Welcome to the live stream for you, one person. Oh, we got two people. Yeah, that skyline is a special skyline meant for people that are special people.
So Pete is Calsonic from last week.
Ah, Calsonic from last week. Oh, okay, I do know that. Yes. Hey, Pete, how you doing? That seems like a good price that he got in that car, I think. Great. Okay, so let's just go to the top screen here so everyone knows how we're doing this. And we're going to do something new this week in showing you the sold prices of some cars that have gone through auction last week, and then explaining about the prices of those and how I feel about those prices. And I think that can give you a better idea of exactly what cars are selling for, rather than me just guessing on the prices. Because as accurately as I guess, there's still some kind of, some cars sell cheap, some cars sell for expensive. This will give you a realistic, actual price of what cars sold for. Just hope we don't get into any trouble for doing that. Michael has a good question, but too early for questions. I gotta warm up my brain a little bit first. We got green tea supplied by the lovely Ayako in the office here. In a Starbucks cup that came from Canada.
Ooh.
It's not Starbucks green tea. It's Ayako style. It's much better. Okay, so yeah, you can come here to auction.pacificcoastjdm.com if this is your first time. I wonder how many people view these as a first time. It seems like we get a lot of regulars, and so you can choose any cars that you like. And I'm just going to show you something that's a little bit of a tip here. It's kind of like a semi-pro tip that I recommend, but it's helpful for these live streams. Is here you can set anything that you want, including the make and the model and the year range of the cars. For example, if you wanted only USA legal cars, put 1994 in here. Once you've filled out all of that, you can go down here into the auctions here and press this button, and this opens up all the different auctions that we can sell to. So today is Tuesday in Japan, and so what I did for this is picked Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, these 3 days, and then I deselected any of the USS auctions from here, because as people know, the USS auctions don't want to be listed publicly, and so we will deselect them. And just a reminder, yeah, if you want to send in any of the cars to talk about, then you can't send in the USS ones because copyright. And so you can deselect those, and then you can search based on that. And so I picked up a bunch of cars you can see at the top with my tabs, and I did that just by setting manual transmission there. And I didn't have an age range, so I was just picking any manual transmission car that goes through in the next 3 days that is not at a USS auction, and then click the search button. And then this gives me just about 8,000 different vehicles to pick from. And then see these little arrows at the top? You can select that for different things. Like if you only want ones that have a 6-speed manual, for example, you can select one of these arrows, and then you can just go down to the section that's all 6 speeds. So anyways, I do want to go back and explain one further thing. If you are a pro or semi-pro or an aspiring semi-pro, the best way that you can search for cars, because you'll naturally be doing this every day, is today is Tuesday. Well, today is Tuesday in Japan. Choose only the next day after it. And then don't worry about ones on Thursday or Friday or Tuesday, because you don't want to be sifting through all of these cars that have already gone through or cars that are going through in 2 days. And the reason for that is because if you pick just cars that are the next day, you've seen all of these cars. Then the next day you pick only Thursday, and then you're not going to be looking at the ones on Wednesday. And you won't be looking at the ones twice that come up on Saturday or Sunday, or 3 times. You won't be going through the same ones over and over again. This saves a little bit of time. It makes it easier to pay more attention to the cars that that you might be interested in buying. Do you ever do that, Mike?
I tend to search for specific cars
Mm-hmm.
and then keep an eye on them that way.
So here's an example. We're going to look up a Subaru Legacy. So Legacy Touring Wagon, right? And if we just have all auctions selected and search, this gives us 128 Legacies. And then if we go back and we select just tomorrow, obviously this is going to give us fewer Legacies to pick from. And now it's easier for us to go through 49 of them, especially if of those 100 and something cars, a number of them are ones that you've already seen. So it's a time-saving way. And if your purpose of buying cars is to purchase for resale, then the amount of time that you spend searching is a big determiner of how much profit that you can make. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
It does.
Or are you just
Crystal
saying
clear.
that? Are you like, that's nonsense, Derek?
No.
Don't tell me nonsense.
Good advice for people who are learning how to bust that way.
Alright, so I picked some cars here that we can look at quickly, and then we're going to go over some cars that Mike has picked from last week. How many you got so far?
0.
0.
Yeah. I was
0 the hero, Mike.
I was writing down questions.
Oh, good.
So if you want to start
Thank you
with
everyone for
questions.
sending the questions. I'll go over the questions after I'm done going over these cars briefly. So I'll kind of lightning round these. And so I got a wide body Supra here. This one's the year 2000. Shh, Firefox, don't talk to me. A year 2000 Supra. I don't think that the Supra made it to year 2000 in the States. I think they ended in somewhere around 98 or something.
Sure.
And then aftermarket front bumper. I'm not feeling the wide body on this. What do you think, Mike?
I don't think the wheels line up with it very well.
That's an easy fix, but the wide body has odd proportions, especially from the rear here.
Yeah. I don't mind it, but you'd be stuck with that unless you did a lot of how many body panels would you have to switch out to put it back? Everything.
Yeah, and here's something people don't think about with wide bodies too, is these body panels are blended right onto the car, and they don't last very long. Typically a wide body will be about 5 or 6 years possibly before you start to see some cracking in it where it molds onto the car. Of course, depending on how well that it's put on, but I've seen a lot of wide bodies that have had that happen to them, and then it becomes difficult to fix those without spending a lot of money. I like that Bill Courtney sent in a Tyrios Kid. That's a funny car.
Should we have a look at it?
It's not a great car. I mean, you can put it onto the list. It's something like a Jimny, but more car-like. Anyways, this is supposed to be lightning round. So it should be fast. So 126,000 kilometers on here. Looking at the condition, it's been in a small accident. Left front inner panel has some accident damage. The dashboard has a monitor on it. Otherwise, it's okay. Front bumper is cracked. There's a crack in, here we go. Crack in the rear fender over here. Crack in the rear fender over here. That's what I was talking about with wide bodies starting to break down. And then this one here is the RZS, which is the twin turbo version, but you get the cheap brakes on it. It was like a budget version of the twin turbo. And price-wise, super prices are just so crazy at the moment. Maybe 3.8 million, so about 35,000 US dollars or so, but not legal for the USA at the moment. Okay, on to the next one here. Land Cruiser 70. Everybody wants one of these. In fact, my wife will attest to this. Every time I see one of these driving on the road, I'm like, hey, a Land Cruiser, can I buy one? And she says, no thank you. This one here is the special version that was made, like this is a 2015, and just in 2015 they made a bunch of these. Although Toyota sells them in other countries, they don't sell them in Japan and haven't since like the early 2000s or maybe mid 2000s. They stopped the 70 series. and then they brought it out as a special edition with the new fascia on it, and then only comes with the gasoline 4000cc engine, no diesels, which is a little bit weird because previously in Japan all Land Cruiser 70s were diesels. But you still get the cool, like, don't look at the face, and then the rest of it is all Land Cruiser looking. I mean, it's a Land Cruiser. It looks. What I mean to say is it's from the A-pillar back. It's still all the same body panels as the original one, but the fenders, hood, and headlights and front bumper have been changed over to a new style for the 2015 one. And I think that the looks of this are gorgeous. I think it's gone down the same road as the G-Wagon, with having classic looks that still look somewhat contemporary, but like are quite appealing to look at on the street. This is a good-looking car. And I think that these retailed for about 3.5 million, and because they were a limited edition run, the price hasn't gone down that much. So they're still somewhere around that, maybe between 3 million and 3.5. This one here, Mike, tell me about the Spirit A.
Spirit A. Spirit R, Type A?
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Obviously, I need somebody to tell me about this. Yeah, the Spirit R Type A was a special limited edition final version of the RX-7, and they came in Type A and Type B and Type C?
Yes.
So 3 different versions and about 2,000 of each one, or is that too much?
I think 2,000 total.
2,000 total between all 3?
2,500 total.
Yeah, neither of us really know what we're talking about, but here's one of them, and they cost more money than the regular versions of the RX-7. And most definitely have been taken better condition than your average RX-7, because it would have been a more expensive model to begin with. That leads to people spending more money on them down the road. So body looks like it's in perfect condition. 75,000 kilometers is pretty low, I guess, for 2003 model. 2003. It's funny to think that they still made these. That's 11 years that they made them, 92 to 2003.
Wow. Wow, 2003.
BBS 17-inch wheels is original for the Spirit R version. This one's been fully repainted, which is a bit of a shame for a collector's car. I wonder what happened to the original paint. Seat has a small rip in it. Underside of the arrow is scratched. Dashboard has glue marks on it. And I don't know how much the prices for these are going for. The starting price here is 2.7 mil.
I think I looked at them recently for someone, and they were, I think, starting around 4 or 5 million for a good one.
Okay, so probably we'll see this one somewhere in that range, 4 million to 5 million, or $40,000 to $50,000. Oh yeah, sub box in the back, exactly what you want in your special lightweight version of the RX-7.
Yeah. Just a pity it's not that wave one. That would be cool.
He's one of those guys who's like, I actually think that the handling has better balance when you put more weight in the back, so that's why I got a sub.
More weight over the rear wheels.
Yeah, it gives you better traction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wave audio. Let's see if we can find a picture of that. FD3S Bose sound in the trunk.
That just sounds
Check this out. It's super weird. So look at this. This plastic here is like a... Here's the speaker output, but the actual speaker is back here. And so the speaker plays, and then it goes through this snaky style thing to come out. Now I actually haven't heard what it sounds like, but it takes up like 20% of your trunk, if not a little bit more.
For an already tiny trunk.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting, and I would love to have this if I had an RX-7, because if you buy an RX-7, the amount of stuff that you can fit into the trunk is not that big anyway. So, and I don't know how many of them came with this audio, but I've only seen it once, and we've probably exported about 20 or 25 of these RX-7s. So probably pretty rare. Okay, on to the next one. Here's a bus, just reminding everybody that we got buses, if you're into bus. Look at the spoiler on the back. I love it with the buses with the spoiler.
We have buses for if you like buses.
Shelby Cobra replica. I think I think I would rather have a replica of this than the real one, even if I could afford a real one. simply because I would feel bad about driving a real one, and I would be very nervous when driving it. I don't think I could enjoy it. But something like this, if it's a replica, you can rip around and do burnouts and stuff and not feel bad.
Does it say what engine it has in it?
7-liter. What 7-liter engines are there? Isn't the Viper a 7-liter? Because the original version of this was, it was a, what, 456? So how many liters? Is that 7 liters?
Someone in the chat is
Oh.
bound to know about these.
Oh, this one actually is a real Cobra. It's not a replica.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's a 427 Cobra. This is my chance to look really dumb. Whenever an American car comes up, I don't know anything about it. For years and years and years, the 427 Cobra I knew about, and then haven't thought about it for about 15 years, and it's somewhere in that brain there, well, is the engine and everything. Oh, hold on a second. The real versions are made by which company? This information is in the brain. Maybe if you can kick me in the head a few times, it'll come out.
What if I say Bristol?
Nope, it's not Bristol. It's no, yeah, Shelby. Somebody says Shelby. Nissan R33 Z Tune. Shelby. It's called like the Shelby Cobra, right? But they actually took the body from a different company, and then I'm trying to look for the name of that company that they took the body from. And then Shelby just blistered out the fenders and widened it, and then put the stupid large engine in it. And then they make two versions. Yeah, AC is the company. There we go. And then this one here says ERA. ERA is a coach builder in the UK, so it is a replica. ERA is the company that also makes the Turbo Minis.
Oh, Turbo Minis?
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, but they're not.
Oh.
But you can buy them in Japan, and we've exported one, but none of them run properly, and you can't get parts for them anymore, just like my Turbo City. But probably worse than the Turbo City.
Turbo City needs a Miata engine.
And then the mini engine isn't suitable for a turbo anyway. So this is cool. I would like to know more about the ERA Cobra and how it compares to the original ones in terms of value and stuff like that. But since I don't know, I'm just going to click to the next one. Starting price for this one is 3 million yen. I don't know how high it's going to go up. Looks like the interior needs some refurbishment. But what a cool looking car. Have you ever seen one of these in person, Mike?
I have not, but I would love to. They're like a dream car.
They have a lot of presence.
Yeah, and I too would only want a replica. But I think but even the replicas are really expensive.
They can be. Have you seen the replica Cobras based off of the Cappuccino? The tiny ones?
I prefer those, actually.
I've never seen one in real life, but I think
Neither.
that would be so wild and crazy.
When you brought this up, I was like, oh, is that a mini Cobra?
I wish it was. Okay, so we got a Skyline. This one here has a starting price of 5 million. That makes it probably a little bit more expensive than your average one. Prices for these, you're looking to spend about 4 million at least nowadays, and they go up to about 7 or 8 usually. And then for the top ones, they'll touch 100,000 or higher. This one has just 56,000 kilometers. The gauges have been changed, but they have documentation of when that was done. The body looks like it's pretty close to perfect with a medium dent over here. And yeah, really no problems with it. Other than the odometer reads 19,000, even though it actually has 56,000 on it, according to the history papers that they explain here. Okay, this one, let's see. It is not a V-Spec or a V-Spec 2. What is there to say about it, Mike?
I don't like the wheels.
Yeah?
I think they look very strange.
I agree, but I don't hate them.
I think if you have a GTR, you have a responsibility to pick good wheels.
I like that. And I think that the GTR looks so good on so many different wheels.
Yeah.
That if it looks so-so, or like a 4 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10, you've really made a mistake.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I do like the little headlight evil eyes.
Oh yeah?
Mm.
And how about this front splitter piece?
Yeah. I like.
We don't sell a lot of these anymore. There was a time that we sold more of them, but the prices have come up. I think in total maybe 6 or 7 R34 GTRs.
We have someone who's wondering about the price on this one actually.
Is that Snow White Supra?
I don't know if they're in the chat, but I assume not.
Yeah. Price wise, let's see. If I were to guess on this one, let me look over the sheet again.
That's 54,000 kilometers or something. Oh no, this one is it's unknown but verified.
Yeah, that's what the $ here means. So the $ means that the mileage that's listed on the odometer is different from the actual mileage, but there's history papers to show that when you combine the two, you get this this much. And so here it says, let me see, a Nismo gauge has been added to the car in 2008, December 4th. Oh, I'm sorry. In 2018, December 4th, yes, at 37,322 kilometers. This was done at the dealer, and then the dealer used a brand new part, so at 37,226, it reset the odometer to 0, because when you change the gauges, then the odometer gets set to 0, and then currently has 19,298 on the odometer, and if you combine the two, you get the 56,524.
Wait, so that was changed in 2018? It had 37,000
2008.
kilometers? Oh, okay.
Did I say 18? Maybe.
Different ones. Okay. Makes
And so everything adds up, but in this case, I would believe it. Not 100%, but I would say most likely with a car like this, in this good of condition, that's going to be accurate mileage. What this doesn't guarantee against is that the odometer hasn't been changed a second time, and sometimes a seller will have that information, and then they will withhold the fact that it has been changed a second time, and then nobody is the wiser because they have the documentation to prove the mileage, even though it's not correct. And so there is still a bit of reason to be concerned with the $ here. And then price for this, I would say probably low sixes. So you're looking at like 6.2 million to 6.4 million, somewhere around there is probably what we're going to see this go for. I can see it go a little higher than that, come to think of it, but U2 on the door is a little bit annoying, and then the kind of unknown mileage is a bit annoying. I know for my personal car, I'm not going to want to drive a car that says 19,000, even though it's really 56, because I don't want to have to be doing the mental math, and I don't want to have this difference in representation on the car. So to me, that doesn't feel right, but I can see why this would be something that's only concerning to me and not to most other people. It's the V-Spec front lip put on the non-V-Spec version of the car. Okay, on to the next one. This one picked by Mike. Mike, I love your style.
Oops.
And no floor mats or carpets. That means because race car.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a fun race car this would be.
I like
You go on the track and everyone would crash into you on purpose. Hey, look at that idiot. Let's get him.
I like how they have the stars all over the body, and then they replace the right fender, front fender, and then they still put more stars.
But they only had 2 left.
Oh man.
It's funny. And then they have different types of star stickers too. Like there's a 6-pointed star here, and there's large stars and small stars, and then little dots that they put.
Do you think it glows in the dark? Like those stickers you put on
I
your
hope
roof?
that it does. That would be such a lost opportunity if it didn't.
Yeah. Maybe more people should start doing that. Glow in the dark stickers on your car.
Or glow-in-the-dark pinstriping.
I like that a lot.
How about you do that, and then instead of getting a light bar at the top, you get a black light.
Yeah.
Because have you seen glow-in-the-dark stickers under a black light?
I'm about to Google it.
I don't think it'll look the same like in a picture.
Wait, how do you... I thought it just like charged like the glow in the dark material, so
So it does that too, so after you turn the black light off, it stays strong for a while.
Oh, they go green?
Well, I guess it depends on the glow-in-the-dark sticker.
Wow.
Welcome to Pacific Coast glow-in-the-dark stickers. You can import these products from Japan if you want. We can sell kits. Hey, did you take a look at these rear spat pieces
I did not.
on the Skyline? That's pretty intense.
Are they just like riveted on?
Well, they just look like a very aggressive spat piece. And then this is a non-GTR with the GTR hood and front grille and front bumper, and probably fenders or GTR fenders too, because if you try to put this bumper on with the regular version of the fenders, you have some alignment problems here because the bumper is actually a bit wider than the non-GTR bumper at the attachment piece. Yep, well, it looks like a car that I don't want to have. Wow. Where do we start here? It's not good. And the funny thing is, it's got 40,000 kilometers on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yikes.
I bet you this person didn't realize how expensive these cars are going to be a few years later. Because if this car were in good condition at 40,000 kilometers, you would see it in around like 1.4 million yen. Now I think this is worth like 500,000 yen. So in becoming a race car, they've lost $10,000.
Yeah. Do you think it's been a race car for its whole life?
Yeah, I
Like
think
maybe
so.
it was a shop car or...
I think it has been a race car since maybe not the beginning, but close to the beginning. It kind of has that vibe to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fun to race. Not to own though. I wouldn't want
Actually,
this.
With the wheels and everything, it kind of looks like it was a race car from a long time ago.
Yeah, those are very 90s wheels, aren't they?
Yeah. Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, hard 40,000 kilometers. That's
Yeah.
right, Pete.
Like
Mr.
40.
Mr. Skucks Bunny, you look like you're new to the channel here. You were asking if this website is legit. Yeah, these are live auctions for across Japan. You can go and search any car that you want. Like you can buy a Subaru Legacy if you want, and then included in the service fee is we set up the shipping too. You pay for the shipping, and so all this information is on the website if you want to check it out, or you can send us an email. And then we can ship to any country as long as it's legal to import to your country, but I don't know where you live. New Zealand? Yeah, I mean, we've sent to Australia and New Zealand. They're not big countries for us to ship to. Most of our business goes to like mainland Europe, USA, Canada, and then a sprinkling everywhere else. Shipping to New Zealand is probably about 1,600 New Zealand dollars, you would say?
I think so. 1,600 to 1,800 maybe?
Somewhere around there. And then I think Australia's about the same price. Australia. Hey, Austin's in the chat. Hey, Austin, how you doing? I don't know if you would consider the this one to be Itasha. I think you have to have anime characters on it for it to be considered Itasha.
I think he said ita as in like ow. Like a
Yeah,
play
but that's
on-
where Itasha comes from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
Itai, which means ouch,
Yeah.
and then sha, which means car. So it's like
Ouch,
painful car. It's like so, because the people who make the Itasha, the anime cars,
yeah.
they know that the society looks at it like, ooh, what did he do to his car?
Yeah.
Ouch, my heart. And that's part of the fun of those cars, is to stand out in what society considers a bad way.
I like it more now.
Mr. Skucks Bunny, yeah, that's the shipping cost. And then there's also our fee for where we derive our profit from. And I know I mention this all the time, but it's very important. We don't derive profit from anywhere else other than our service fee. So we don't have any hidden markups or special costs that are kind of sneaky or scammy. And so do watch out for that, because that's basically how this industry rolls. Is it's very, very easy for an exporter to be like, no, shipping to New Zealand is actually $2,000, and then you don't know and you just paid them $400 more. Okay, Mike, why don't we go over something else?
Questions?
We can either do questions or we can pull up some past sales.
Yeah, I've been trying to find some good cars that would be good to talk about past sales, but not so much luck yet.
This is okay. Maybe next week we'll take a little bit more time to get those ready.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So, some questions. Someone was asking about the taxes in Japan, but they're from Canada, but they didn't really mention what they wanted to know about taxes in Japan. So, I don't know if they mean like the.
Was that the
8%.
first person right at the beginning of the chat?
Yeah.
I wonder if that dude's still here. What's the taxes like in Japan? Well, let's change this to the ultra fun subject of taxes.
Next up, taxes.
Pacific, yeah, watching now, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. So Japan, like most countries around the world, has multiple different sources of taxes. There is corporate taxes, there's personal income taxes, and then there's a consumption tax, as well as land taxes and other things like that. So it's not that much different. The consumption tax in Japan is 8%, but this October will be going up to 10%, which means this year everybody's going to be making their big purchases. This is a boost to the economy, because if the taxes are going up and someone's looking to buy a house or a car or something, they're going to want to buy that now before October, which means we'll probably have more inventory in the auctions until October, and after October to maybe the next year or so, lower levels of inventory. That's what we saw last time, and when it went from 5 to 8%, which happened like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know. Income taxes in Japan, well, if you include everything all together, including health insurance and mandatory pension contributions, it's fairly expensive compared to other countries in the world. Healthcare here is pretty good though, so there is some balance there. Education is quite good in some respects. That's a different topic if we really want to get into it. And then corporate taxes are some of the highest in the world, so we pay like 36%. Plus we pay 50% of healthcare and pensions. So compared to other countries in the world, I think Japan is close to number one, if not number one, in costs of corporate taxes. And the idea of having a high corporate tax is because the government wants you to spend all of that money so that you are taxed on a smaller percent. And so most companies in Japan, instead of showing high profits, will show just marginal little profits on top of the break-even point in order for them to not be taxed as much. And compared to other countries like the US, where it's very common to put your earnings into tax shelters and hide from the tax man, that's not usually what people in Japan do. And so in some respects that's really good, but it can also be kind of painful for companies that want to play it safe by having a good pillow of money to land on if you have problems with your company. Also, loans here in Japan are a little bit weird too because of this, because usually in a country like America or Canada, they'll take a look at what your how much money that you have and how much more than your break-even point you've been making over the last few years, whereas in Japan they just want to know that you have made more than your break-even point, because they're assuming everybody is just barely making over that amount and then spending all of that other money on infrastructure or fixed goods or things that are going to appreciate or something like that. And so there's more to it than that, but I don't think I want to go on for people who are coming here for car stuff and then we're talking about Japanese business.
Cool. Another question?
Hit me.
Someone asked about Jimny prices, but they didn't say where they were from.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jimneys have a few main eras of them. They have the classic Jimneys, which are from the 60s and 70s. They have high prices, but they're all classic cars, so they're not meant to be driven. Next category is from there up until when they got rid of the leaf springs, because those are the ones here in Japan that people like to take off-roading. They're easier and cheaper to off-road, they break less, they are much easier to lift, and lower performing for the leaf spring ones compared to high money sprung suspension builds, but because like a hobby car can be rather expensive anyway, so there are far more people that want the leaf spring ones, and so they tend to be more expensive. One of those ones from like the mid 80s up until like 1990, I don't know when it was, but 92, 93, 94, somewhere in there when they changed over, you can be looking to spend between 200,000 to 600,000 yen, with a good one sitting somewhere around $4,000 or so. If you wanted to import that, you'd have to pay other fees to get it to your country as well. The spring suspension ones that came in, they're like half the price. You can get them for like 100,000 yen to like 250,000 yen, up until about like 2007 or 8. They start to get a little bit more expensive, and then they just came out with a new Jimny that looks really cool, and those retail now for I think around 1.5, 1.7.
Which, sorry?
1.8. I'm trying to think of how much those retail for, but I don't know. I'm just basing it off of what other cars in the market. They're cheap cars, the Jimny, and so they're meant to be cheap little 4x4 cars, useful for grandpas who live on a mountain volcano, which a lot of countryside people in Japan do. That's why four-wheel drive cars are so popular here. Bill Courtney, you are completely wrong about that. My wife not only has never been an interpreter, but she speaks English all the time, so I never get a chance to speak Japanese to her. And so therefore, compared to most gaijin in Japan, my Japanese is much, much poorer, especially for somebody who has lived here for 13 years as I have. And so the way I learned Japanese is I went to, like in grade 9, 10, 11, no, grade 10, 11, and 12, I studied it in university. I had a friend, or a few friends that were Japanese and spoke a little bit to them. When I moved to Japan, I found it quite difficult to begin learning because a lot of what you learn in school is difficult to bring into real conversation because in the textbook they teach you a style of Japanese that is very, it's like the polite version of Japanese, which you would use in interactions if you're going to do business or something like that. But the Japanese that you hear on TV or from other people is often in a very different style of Japanese, and so there isn't a lot of overlap to bring you into it. And then when you learn polite form first, you don't learn the root version of the verbs, and so you kind of have to unlearn that to learn the root version to spread that out to different forms. And so this is me making excuses for not being able to speak Japanese.
Oh, Derek.
I'm trying to, I'm intentionally making it sound very complicated so that people are like, screw that, I don't want to learn Japanese. And then I could be like,
hard.
ha ha, look at me, you can't do it. And then, like, I think if you've got a thing for language, this matters more than basically anything else. And if you're like me and are always afraid of looking stupid at all times, that's a very bad thing for learning a language. You have to be okay with being wrong repeatedly, and then I think for some people, like, some people can hear a word and it just sticks, and then some people will have to hear that word 30 times before it sticks, and that's me.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, can we purchase vehicles from dealers? Or would the dealer want to send it to him directly? That was Snow White Super.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's an excellent website that you can check out. It's called GooNet. It's kind of a stupid name, but look at this. It's in English. And that's not correct. Where's the English? I'll type in GooNet English. So GooNet is a Japanese website, and then some exporter stole, this is a weird story, stole all of their data and made their own version of the website, but instead of going to the actual car dealer, it goes to him so he can sell those cars. And then GooNet was like, dude, you can't do that. And he's like, dude, why not? And GooNet's like, dude, you're stealing all of our business. And he's like, dude, no one else is exporting these cars, and it's easy. So I don't know what happened, but they made some sort of an agreement where they can continue the English version of it, but there has to be some sort of provisions that prevent him from stealing all the sales or something like that. So we appreciate your caring and thoughtful phone calls and emails. Ask for King's Auto Co. Limited. We are operating as usual.
King's Auto?
King's Auto is the name of the export company that has built this.
Okay.
So they're not. This website is not owned by GooNet, but basically GooNet is kind of like your regular auto trader, and all dealers in Japan, when they want to sell cars, they list them on the GooNet website. There's also another one called Car Sensor, and then you can do this in English, so it's really easy if you want to take a look at Toyota Supras. Here we go. And then you can see 73 of them for sale by dealers. And then take a look at this. Now we found an SZR here. This one here is non-turbo, looks kind of cool. But it doesn't say anywhere who's selling this. And so here we can see it's GTNet, which is a common sports car dealer here in Japan. And We can find the same car on the Japanese version of GoNet so that we can see who the dealer is without looking at things like the license plate or the banners in the background. And then when we look at it in Japanese, you're going to see something different with the prices here. So I'm just going to bring that up too. And let's see, this is a 1997 with 92,000 kilometers. And in the Japanese one, you can see more pictures usually, because the English one can only do a maximum of 10 or like 15 pictures or something. And we're going to pick Supras. Here we go. Oh, I like how they've updated the picture to the new version of the Supra. That's pretty cool.
Oh.
But it's not for sale in Japan yet, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay, and we could just... Oh, there we go. It's the very first one here. All right, so we're going to compare these two. So note here, 3.305. And then the Japanese one has 3.18 and 3.48. So they have two prices. And so what we're dealing with here is this price here. You'll always see two numbers, whether it's on Yahoo Auctions or this site or other dealer sites. This one will be for the car, and this one will be for the car after it's been registered. Now, this one has almost 300,000 yen difference, which is very high. I would be skeptical of that. And in fact, I'm more skeptical of a dealer that's a large chain than a personal dealer, because a large chain has to make more profit per car than a small dealer. And generally speaking, a Japanese buyer will feel more safe with a large chain. I feel like large chains scam you more often than small dealers in my experience. That's what I can say. And so this large difference between the two is weird. Why does it cost? Why do you have to pay an extra $3,000 to have the car registered when the real cost should be somewhere around 100,000 or 150,000? That's twice as much. This leads me to believe that you can't actually buy the car for this price. Now, some dealers will let you buy the car for this price. Almost always, there's no way to talk down on dealers. And in general, I don't want to talk about dealers too much, but I guess I am. Dealers are always going to be more expensive because the dealers buy from these auctions. And then they sell the cars with money to keep them in business, their profit, right? And so in this case here, this 3 million yen car might have been, that's a lot of markup for a non-turbo. Even with a 5-speed manual, they're probably looking for $12,000 profit on this. That's an awful lot
price for that.
For this car. And GTNet sells expensive cars. I mean, they sell cars with lots of markup because they deal exclusively in sports cars, and sports cars are a risky business to be in, so they have to make more profit on average to compensate for the extra costs that they spend on broken sports cars, which there are plenty in Japan, especially these days now that the 90s are gone. But they got nice pictures. And anyways, so if you buy from us, we can buy from this dealer. We can try to negotiate the price down. Usually you can't get any negotiation down because the dealer, look, is already making 300,000 yen less. And so some dealers will be like, oh, I'm selling to an exporter. I'm getting all of that less profit. And so you can't have it for this price. You have to have it for this price, and they'll give us a new price. Also keep in mind, this price includes the tax. And then we'll take 8% off of that when we invoice you. And be very careful with this, because a lot of people buy from dealers. They don't realize that this price has the tax in, and the other exporters get all of this money. And this bugs me on two sides. One, the customer is overpaying for the car, and that overpayment becomes profit made, black profit. They're basically making money because you don't, as a customer, know any better. And that's a lot of money to be making. What's 8% of 3 million? That's like $2,000 extra money than we would make on the same car. And so screw those people. And if you ever notice anybody that's doing that, call them out, because that stuff needs to stop. Because I would love to make an extra $2,000, but I'm not going to go around scamming other people to get that money. And it would be so easy to do that because, like I said, nobody really knows. Yeah, but dealer cars suck. You spend more money on them. Look at GTNet buying them all. Be careful of King Buyer. We've had experiences of low-grade cars that are expensive with King Buyer.
Yeah. lot of R grade cars go to the dealers and then they get made to look nice and fancy, and then
To be a good car dealer, all you have to do is detail the cars really well and take pictures.
yeah.
Pictures can hide a lot of damage too.
Yeah.
Here we have another SZR for $2 million. This is probably a very poor condition car when they bought it, because that's kind of their strategy. And nothing against a strategy like that. Like, if your strategy is buy the lowest grade cars so that you can make more profit, that's just business. That's, you know, you're choosing to buy cars of a certain group, but it's like, it's the customer's job to make sure that those cars are of a reasonable value to them before they buy them. And so I'm kind of stuck in the middle there. For me personally, I don't want to buy low grade cars and can try to convince the customer that they're higher grade than they are, but that's kind of how this industry works a lot. So okay, that's too much talking about dealer cars. We sell 1% of our cars dealer cars because they're just not good value. Oh, the only time I think it's good to buy a dealer car is if you want a very specific like color or a very rare type of car and you just can't find them at auction and you want to buy quickly. And so dealer cars work for some of the dealers that we sell to. Sorry, I'm doing your job here, Mike. Some of the dealers we sell to buy dealer cars because sometimes you can get exactly what you're looking for and you don't have to wait at auction. And waiting has a cost to it too. If you have a custom, or like if you want to import a car and this car comes up once every 6 months, and then you don't know if you're going to win it when it comes up every 6 months, or you feel like you might be overpaying for it because you're going to bid super high when it comes up, then maybe a dealer route is a good way to go. Plus, you can get a good understanding about how much the dealers are charging for their cars too. This gives you an understanding of the markup that they have. And usually markup is somewhere in the 300,000 yen range, 400,000 yen. But on some cars like the ones we're seeing here, we're seeing 1 million yen markup, and that's just ridiculous. I have a Wasabi Cars shirt. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Wasabi Cars sells shirts, and you should buy one from him because Daniel O'Grady works too hard. So buy his shirts. What are we going to do next, Mike?
Buy shirts, I guess.
Yeah, everyone head over to wasabicars.com and then tell him that Derek sent you. Send him an email and say, I want to buy a shirt, even if you know you can buy it just through the website. Just send him an email and say, I want to buy a shirt and Derek sent me. That'll make me feel good. Self-promotion. Daniel O'Grady from Wasabi Cars is in Kyushu. It's you have to fly to go visit him. Driving would be like 15 hours. Nah, 12 and a half hours if you drove the speed limit.
Yeah, because we calculated that, right? I did find a couple of cars that we could look at sold prices on if you want, or we could save it for next week.
We can. 10 minutes. Yeah, we got 12 minutes left. Why don't we go for some more questions here? Okay. Does anyone have a question for me? Did you write one down?
Someone was looking at prices for a Toyota Cressida, 1987, but I'm not sure if they're still here.
The Cressida is a car that they don't sell in Japan. They sell the Cresta here.
Oh.
The Cressida is like the American version of the JZX 90s.
Really?
No, 80s. I think they stopped at that generation, but then they never got the turbo engines.
Cressida.
They're just rear-wheel drive large sedans. They're like a Chaser. Like the Chaser we have on our lot?
Yeah.
That's basically what they are.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how they compare. I don't think that they're an exact Cresta. I think they took a Cresta and then they changed some things, like headlights might be different and trim pieces and bumpers and interior, like no climate control. And I don't think that they sold them in Japan under that name. I don't think so. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Lower grades in general, right? That's what most of the American cars.
During the 80s and 90s, almost all American cars were lower grade than what you could get in Japan at the same time. And Japanese companies were just raking money in. It's like they were raking leaves, but there were bills on the ground, and they're like, yes, thank you, I'll take all of this money.
Oh, it's great.
I don't think we'll ever see another time that's similar to that in any country. In that, like, the exchange rate was so much in Japan's favor, and Japan had such a technological advantage over other countries, they could just, like, spend as much money as they wanted, and they could still make so much profits. I think the Cressida always had the 6 cylinders in it. I don't think that they made 4-cylinder versions of it. CLP asks if we felt the earthquake. Mike, did you feel it?
Was that like a couple weeks ago? I did feel
He said last week. I don't know. Did you feel anything?
No, a couple weeks ago there was a pretty big one. Woke me up.
There were a lot of earthquakes in Japan regularly. You just get used to them. Everyone stops in the house and goes, "Whoa, did you feel the earthquake?" And half the people are like, "No, I didn't feel it." And then the other people are like, "Yeah, that was weird." And then that's it.
Yeah. We had another question. Oh, someone was asking what the difference is between a Stager and a Skyline. I don't know if they're talking about the 260 RS.
I see that question in here. Did you just pull that off of there, or is it a question you wrote down?
Yeah, he's asked again.
Yeah, well, they run a similar chassis. They're not exactly the same, and basically it's like Stager is a station wagon version of the Skyline chassis. R33 chassis. Quite similar, not exactly the same. They'll have some differences, like I think structure is maybe a little bit weaker on the Stager than it is on the Skyline, because it's not meant to be as sporty. And then they receive the same engines in them. RB25 turbo engine is the common one in the Stager. More Stagers are 4-wheel drive than Skylines are, but they use the same 4-wheel drive system, I think. I think they have the 4-wheel steering as well. And then the Stager also has a version called the 260 RS, and then the 260 RS is a GTR version, sort of. It runs the GTR engine. And same 4-wheel drive system, 5-speed manual. See if we can pull one of those up. Stager. And then here we're going to go for engine size higher than 2600, just to make sure that we get only the 260 RSs. And they're semi-rare cars nowadays, and so it looks like we get just one of them. This one here is a 3000cc version. And then this one here doesn't use an RB engine. This is the newer version of the Stager that runs on kind of the next generation Skyline platform, which is the same as the G35 or G37. These are good cars, I think, but I think the earlier Stagers, more people like them. These ones are very cool. 6-speed manual transmission and rear wheel drive, and then runs the Fairlady's 3.5 liter a VQ engine in it. So kind of a cool little car that a lot of people don't think about when they think about sports cars. With the Fairlady becoming more popular these days, I think these are becoming more interesting. Still very cheap. I think, how much are these? Like 300,000 yen, 400,000 yen?
Yeah, like 500 for the M35 manual.
Yeah.
I think about 500,000 for a good one.
Yeah, so $4,500.
Yeah.
Not importable to the States yet. Well, not for a while, actually. And then here's a version of the 260 RS. And then the 260 RS version, they sold in 2 generations. This one's the later of the 2. They have quite a, like, from the A-pillar back, they're the same, other than spoiler bumpers and stuff like that. And then the front end here has a different hood and fenders. It's pretty common for Japanese cars to have a makeover after they've been on the market for 2 or 3 years, kind of a mid-cycle refresh. People call them like Koki and Zenki. Koki meaning late model and Zenki meaning early model. And so, and then this is the original front bumper for the 260 RS. As you can see, it looks kind of Skyline-like. And then you get the kind of cooler late model headlights. I quite like the early model ones though. Let me see, Stager 260 RS. Yeah, and some people put Skyline front ends on them because they look kind of, some people think that they look cool. I think they look good, but I like the Stager front end. So here's the early generation. And I think that some people also think that the early generations look a little bit better with their single headlight here instead of a dual headlight. See if I can get a better picture of one of these. So here's a good late generation, early generation. And this one even has the original wheels on it. And what's fun about these original wheels is you have different offsets on the fronts and the rears for these, which is pretty weird for a four-wheel drive car. So it means you can't actually rotate the tires if you wanted to. Doesn't matter. You just drive it fast. Skyline GTR wagon. Very cool. Someone found a Cosmo. What kind of Cosmo? 2555. That someone is Chopper Duel? I can't find it. That's because I'm looking up stages. Okay, this generation of Cosmo, let's see, we got just 4 minutes left here. The final generation of the Cosmo before Mazda was like, all of our money's going away. We can't make fun cars anymore. Only the Miata. And so the rotary was, because, yeah, I guess I probably don't need to get into that at the moment, but it's hard for a company that has as little resources as Mazda does to build such unique engineering. And their engineers are great, but it is a small company and there's only so much that you can do. So nowadays it's very difficult for Mazda to really go the rotary route because of emissions and perception and possible longevity, but this was their prized car at the moment. This is basically an RX-7 in a gentleman's suit, I suppose you could say. Only came with an automatic transmission and is somewhat famous for being the only original car, I believe the only original car to ever come with a 3-rotor rotary. And this one, he doesn't say, so this is going to be a 2-rotor for sure, because there's a big price difference between the 2-rotor and the 3 rotors. Let me see the chassis code for it. JC3SE. I think it's the same chassis code for the 3 and the 2 rotors in this car. So it's an auction grade 3.5, interior C, exterior C. It says AC doesn't work, there's corrosion underneath. Audio has been removed, wheels have corrosion on them, the body is not great, there's a big scratch over here, marks from this door being removed and put back on. Big scratches and paint cracks on the front. I think the wheels are nice for the car. I like those. And the styling of it, I think it's hard to explain in a picture how good the styling looks. It's very unique proportions on this car and very similar proportions to the original Cosmo, and yet in kind of a more modern blanket, if that makes any sense. The original Cosmo is very oddly proportioned, and this one too, with its clamshell back end here and a very unique looking interior. You can see these lines here. This line goes into the door and then into the back and then around the back seats, so it forms like a complete circle in your cockpit, which looks very weird compared to all modern cars. That's the kind of interior that you don't see on new cars anymore, because the price of engineering something like that doesn't justify it. People aren't going to be like, wow, I'm so glad that Mazda spent $6 million extra designing that interior, so I'm going to buy this car instead of this other car. Usually that's the type of thing, and automakers know nowadays that interior, there are certain things that cause people to like the interior and certain things that they don't. They've already got all of that handled, and so we don't see interiors that quite have that level of detail to them anymore. And yeah, even with the 2-rotor engine, that's the same engine that's in the RX-7, the FD version of the RX-7, and so you're still getting 250 horsepower. Oh, and here's another thing, the 3-rotor version of this, and I looked this up like several years ago, I've never forgotten it. It gets the exact same fuel economy as an H2 Hummer does.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which is to say it's terrible fuel economy.
That's hard.
But it's a specialty car, and you know, if you don't like this, there are a lot of other specialty cars for you. There are definitely enough people that do like this for the supply to feed. And the Starlet GT Turbo, Javier, is lovely. It's one of the best track cars that you can have in Japan. And I kind of wish that our track car was one of those.
Speaking of that, someone said in the chat, why does the Miata have no wheels?
What?
They must have seen one of the videos.
No.
That's all we have time for today, everyone.
In fact, it is 12 o'clock. We're going to have to wrap this stuff up. Is there anything that we need to say, Mike, before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. Stay tuned. Hopefully we have more videos soon.
I wonder if David D is wondering about race car stuff. I've mentioned it.
Now he said, come on.
Come on. I don't know who he's talking to when he says come on.
He's the same person who said the wheels.
Oh, yeah. No, nobody stole any wheels if that's what you're thinking. In fact, we have a surplus of wheels because apparently people who build race cars previously don't know what the heck that they're doing. And race cars that somebody built never come with an instruction manual for the next person who's going to be picking it up from them. So, yeah, we have wheels aplenty at the moment, which is good because I had a flat tire in the BB yesterday and had to replace that with wheels. If you saw me on Facebook, then you would have seen the inappropriately sized wheels, and you may have made fun of me for how tall the suspension is, but that has something to do with the project that we're working on at the moment, and so if it looks odd to you, then understand that it won't for very much longer. Or it's going to look odd in a good way pretty soon. Right?
I think it looks great now, and it's going to look even better soon.
The tire's sticking out from the fender that far.
Love it.
That is funny.
Oh, Flavian coming in with the zinger right at the end.
Yeah, you know what the problem is with the flat tires is this, the way that we drive. When nobody is looking, we do burnouts all day long.
On nails.
and glass.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And on the export documents for the customers we don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We do.
totally it.
We do burnouts on front-wheel drive cars, and the rears get.
Yeah, it is the second flat tire. The first flat tire, I don't know how it happened. I think it was just the fact of getting a flat tire happens sometimes. The second flat tire, I'm sure it has to do with low-grade tires that were... Actually, this is the third flat tire that the BB has had. But this one here is low-grade tires on wheels that are stretched too far, which is probably damaging the tire. And so we knew that was a problem. We just got a good deal on those wheels, I think. That's all.
The
Okay.
yellow car jumps. Yeah.
So that's going to be it, everybody. We're going to be back again next week for another hour-long stream if you're interested in this sort of thing. So thanks for watching, and see you again next week. Say bye, Mike.
See you.
Bye-bye.